I never grew up with a Game Boy Advance. Like a bunch of people who were born in the early 2000s, my first consoles consisted of the Wii and DS. I was lucky enough to be given a hand-me-down GameCube for my 8th birthday, but that's beside the point. The point is, I wasn't born in the time frame the Game Boy Advance was relevant anymore. By the time I was 1, the DS had already come out. My first Mario Kart games were DS and Wii, and I never got to play Super Circuit until late 2015 on the Wii U Virtual Console. And that was the first time I started to realize how overlooked this game actually was. It's a Mario Kart game that everyone seemed to hate, but was the hate deserved? Did it deserve to be a bestseller? Or was it even any good? Well, that's what we'll discuss today. So kick back, start your engines, race to the finish, then miss the f***ing end lap, and with that said, let's f***ing begin. The first thing you guys must be thinking, why the f*** am I starting with Super Circuit? Well, that's because a lot of people tend to start by talking about their favourite or the best Mario Kart game. I will eventually talk about every Mario Kart game, but I thought it might be a bit more interesting to start with the game no one really talks about. So to start off, let's begin with a quick history lesson. By the time Super Circuit came out, there were only 2 Mario Kart games. Super Mario Kart on the Super Nintendo, and Mario Kart 64 on the Nintendo 64. Both of these became some of the best-selling games on their consoles, and it just made so much sense to make more. With the Game Boy selling insanely well in the 90s, it's a bit strange thinking Nintendo didn't make a Mario Kart game for it, but I think even Nintendo knew that a Mario Kart game on the Game Boy probably wasn't technically feasible. But the Game Boy Advance, with it rocking its 32-bit processor, it was the perfect time to start work on their first Mario Kart on a handheld. And for the first time in the series, the game wasn't made by Nintendo directly, it was developed by the studio Intelligent Systems, most famous for the Fire Emblem and Paper Mario series. I reckon they did a pretty good job making this game. Their quality of games are usually fantastic, so when I saw that they developed this game, I wasn't too surprised. Bloody good stuff. The game sold insanely well, as Mario Kart usually does, becoming the 4th best-selling Game Boy Advance game, only behind the Pokemon games, which is pretty impressive. Despite the game selling this well, the game had actually garnered a bit of a reputation online, with a lot of people claiming it's the worst Mario Kart game, and that it's not a game worth replaying. So to see if that's true, let's dive into this game. The best way I can describe Mario Kart Super Circuit is as if Super Mario Kart and Mario Kart 64 had a baby. Super Mario Kart was held back by the limitations of the Super Nintendo, used Mode 7 technology to achieve its 3D effect, and Mario Kart 64 with its more varied courses, 3D models as pre-rendered sprites, and its character selection. Looking straight at Super Circuit, you can definitely tell it's right in the middle of the two. It looks visually better than Super Mario Kart and plays more in line with that game, but doesn't look as strong as the visuals in Mario Kart 64, while still keeping the pre-rendered 3D models, which adds up to a pretty good mix of the two. Honestly, I reckon this game looks really fucking beautiful on the GBA. Its courses have such nice vibes and aesthetic, and the character models look surprisingly nice on that small screen. They did an overall pretty good job on the presentation. The game itself runs really smoothly too and feels right at home on the GBA. The game attempts to run at 60 frames per second, but realistically it performs at around 30 due to the Mode 7 technology at play. Still, it runs surprisingly well, and I commend them for getting Mario Kart to run as well as it does here. The character selection is the exact same as Mario Kart 64. It's a pretty standard roster nowadays, but it's a perfectly solid bunch of characters. As I said before, I love how the characters look. That pre-rendered look really pops in this game on the GBA. Some of the voice clips do sound a bit strange though. Luigi sounds like he just got kicked in the fucking nuts. The menus are also pretty solid too. The music really makes you feel excited about starting a race, and I love the presentation with the menus with the options in circles behind the spinning tire. It's an overall good menu and it's pretty easy to navigate. The gameplay, like I said before, is pretty similar to Super Mario Kart. This time the mini turbos from Mario Kart 64 make a return, and it's a definite welcome addition to this game. Performing drifts isn't perfect here though. It feels a bit too loose and it's easy to lose control and spin out while drifting, but at the very least it is a step up from Super Mario Kart's drifting. The game's overall controls also have a similar problem. Driving straight works perfectly fine, but the moment you start to turn, it feels very loose, and when there's courses that have a lot of tight corners, it can be pretty difficult getting the hang of steering properly. The items themselves work pretty well for the most part too. I never really had a problem with using them. The red shells always targeted correctly and all the items worked exactly as you think they would. Nothing else to really say, just a solid bunch of Mario Kart items that work pretty well for the most part. There's no new items, it's all returning items from previous games, but for a first Mario Kart handheld, you've got all the items you would really ever need. Before I talk about the courses, there's something I want to talk about. It's the extra courses. Technically, this is the first instance of retro courses even before Mario Kart DS. While the Super Mario Kart courses aren't quite as good as the main courses, they're still a welcome addition here as an extra unlockable for the main game. I won't be talking about each of those tracks here individually, as I will eventually talk about them when I get around to Super Mario Kart in a later video. So with that said, let's talk about Super Circuit's main courses. First course to start this game is Peach Circuit. It's an extremely basic course, but that's totally fine. I'm always okay with the first course in a Mario Kart game being very simple, as it's a good way to help newcomers get used to the game mechanics. The only things I really expect out of them is good music, a decent layout, and a good aesthetic. And Peach Circuit at the very least delivers on all three. I love the grassy fields with Peach's castle in the background, and with those added peach trees as obstacles on the track. It's a cool touch. There's plenty of turns on this course that help you get used to the turning and drifting around, and it's an overall decent time. Honestly, there's really not much to talk about here. It's just an overall good standard starter course that's got a nice aesthetic, fun turns, and pretty decent music. It's an overall decent course, and it's a good way to start off the game. Next up is Shy Guy Beach. Interestingly, this is my personal least favorite track in Mario Kart Wii, but in this game, I really like this track. The beach courses are usually really enjoyable in this game, and they have such nice aesthetics and music. Something I really like is the layout. It's perfect for this game. It's essentially a square, but its turns are very satisfying to navigate around. There's plenty of risky shortcut opportunities, crabs to avoid, and it's an overall fun stage with a really nice aesthetic and some fun turns to navigate around. I really enjoyed this one. Next is Riverside Park, and wow, DK really just f***ed over Yoshi here. The course takes place in a jungle. There's lots of boardwalks to cross, big jumps across water. Any Mario Kart tracks to have big jumps are usually a great time, and some really satisfying turns. I love the atmosphere of this level. It really makes you feel like you're driving in a jungle in the middle of a park somewhere. It's a much more complex layout compared to the first two courses, and it's an overall fun time. It's a good course that has some very funky jazz music, some awesome course details, and these little things come together to make a pretty fun stage. Next up is the first of 4 Bowser Castle tracks, and honestly guys, I'm not the biggest fan of the first one. I get that this track is in the Mushroom Cup and it's on a handheld, but the track design for me is a little too basic. It's essentially 2 rectangles slapped together with just a few wumps scattered around, and a straightaway with just a few jumps. It's not exactly the kind of track design I picture when I think of Bowser's Castle. Not everything here is bad though. I love the music, the atmosphere is at least on point, and the jumps, while not too exciting, is still a fun addition to this course. The only thing I wish is that they made the layout a little bit more elaborate. You could still keep the main course elements, but just tweak the layout a little bit to make it a little less basic. Next up is Mario Circuit. This one is another pretty iconic one after Mario Kart 8's version of this track. It's another fairly basic circuit course, but its design is at least a bit more complex than Peach Circuit. Honestly, there's actually not much to this course. It's just a decent circuit course with some tight turns, some risky shortcuts, and it's just a pretty decent time. Nothing mind-blowing, but a fun course to play every now and then. Next is Boo Lake, and damn, Yoshi's really getting f***ed in these pictures. My poor guy just can't catch a f***ing break. Bunch of people really hate this course, and I'm gonna be honest, I don't get why. I've always thought it was a pretty fun time. I think it's got a pretty nice spooky atmosphere, and its layout is filled with fun twists and turns and some really tricky shortcuts that are very satisfying when you manage to cross them. I get that some people don't like that there's no lake in this stage, despite the name of this course being Boo Lake, but I genuinely don't think it's that big of a deal, to be honest. It's the GBA, I don't expect the water to have perfect physics or anything, and I think the cool spooky aesthetic is enough to make up for the lack of lake. I think it's an overall good stage with a creepy atmosphere, a fun layout, and some pretty immersive spooky music. It's a solid level all around. Next up is Cheeseland, and I absolutely love this one. It's one of my favorite tracks in this game. Something that Super Circuit really excels at is giving us some really unique track ideas, and Cheeseland is a perfect showcase of this. It's set on the moon that's made of cheese. That's just awesome, and it probably makes Wallace feel so happy. There's little mice everywhere and some cheese mountains in the background. It's a gorgeous, vibrant course that just feels alive, you know? The track design is pretty good too. It's not too difficult, but yet has some pretty tricky turns and some awesome jumps to cross. It's a genuinely fun time and an absolute highlight of this game. Next is Bowser Castle 2, and this is how you do a Bowser's Castle. The track layout is way more elaborate compared to the first Bowser Castle, but the element of this track that really makes it stand out are all the jumps scattered around. I love when this game throws a lot of jumps at you to navigate through, and this might be the best jumping course in the whole game. It's just so fun and exciting flying through this course, just jumping around everywhere, and it's just such a fun time from start to finish. It's such a step up compared to the first Bowser Castle. Next up is Luigi Circuit, another circuit course, and honestly, I think it's the best circuit course in this whole game. I love the aesthetic in this course, with the rain pouring all over the screen, the Luigi blimp, and the space station in the background. It's a much more unique circuit stage compared to the other two, and it really makes it stick out in my head. Its level layout is really cool too. It's shaped very similarly to a big K. It leads to some very cool twists and turns as of puddles to avoid. It's a genuinely fun time, and in my opinion, the best circuit style course in this entire game. Next up is Sky Garden, and this is an easy contender for the best course in the entire game. It's such a unique course. You're racing on a giant cloud in the sky with beanstalks surrounding the course, including the Luigi blimp from the previous course, which is such a cool detail. It's got such amazing music. It makes you feel really excited racing on this course. The layout is really solid too. It's got some really cool turns, some jumps, and it's just a genuinely great time, and I can definitely see why it's a lot of people's favorite. Next up is Cheep Cheep Island. This one's always been a personal favorite of mine. It's set on a beautiful island at sunset with a bunch of Cheep Cheeps jumping around and a lighthouse in the background. It's got such a calm atmosphere and it's such a fun time to race on. Its track design consists of a sandy beach and some boardwalks to drive across. I really enjoy this one. It's essentially a more fleshed out version of Shy Guy Beach, and it's a really enjoyable time. It's a track that's very simple but always very fun to revisit. Next up is Sunset Wilds. It's another fan favorite course for many and another personal favorite of mine. I think it's one of the most immersive tracks in this entire game. It's got such a nice atmosphere here with the landscape being set in a desert at sunset. And then on the third lap, the sun fully sets and it's such an awesome detail. It really makes this course feel alive and like it's a real place, and I like that. Its music is also really great. It makes you feel really adventurous and brave, which really suits this course. Even the layout is pretty good. It's another course in the shape of a K, this time inverted, and now you're dodging tents, by guys that f*** your carts and navigating through mud. I love this one. It's a genuinely great time and an absolute highlight of this game. Next is Snowland. Yeah, it's kind of a boring name. I know Cheeseland has a similar name, but that course is at least based on a fun fictional concept. Snowland could really just mean anything. For all anyone knows, I'm talking about Mount Hotham. Anyway, this, for many, is considered the worst track in the game. For me though, I'm honestly a little conflicted because on one hand, I actually really like a lot about it. The atmosphere and music feels so cozy. It feels like the kind of music I'd listen to inside a wooden cabin next to a fireplace. The overall layout is pretty fun too. It's filled with a bunch of cool twists and turns, some penguins, and some water patches to avoid. There's a lot to like here. But on the other hand, that screen shaking. Holy shit, whoever thought the screen shaking in this course was a good idea needs to sit in the corner and think about their life choices. This feels like my Game Boy Advance is having a earthquake every few seconds, and it's so annoying. Even Mario in this preview picture is so depressed about being here. It's the only course to have this shaking, and I have no idea why. It's such a dumb design choice that ruins what would have been an otherwise solid course, but I guess nothing screams fun than motion sickness. Next up is another iconic course from this game, especially after its remake in Mario Kart 8, Ribbon Road. It's a birthday themed course with presents everywhere around a kid's room while we're driving on a giant ribbon. It's such a colourful and vibrant stage, and it's just a blast from start to finish. The overall layout is great too. At this point in the game with the final few cups, the courses are going to get way more complex for better or for worse, but for here, the layout works really perfectly. It makes it feel like a giant ribbon was just poured onto the road and not just like another standard racetrack. It's an overall great course and another perfect example of great creativity with Super Circuit's course ideas. It's a great time. Next is Yoshi Desert, and holy shit, someone's getting f***ed here. It's probably Yoshi because of all the screenshots that just seem to hate him. Anyway, this course takes place in a desert oasis around some pyramids and a giant Yoshi Sphinx, which is pretty cool. The actual course itself though, I am a bit mixed on. Anyone that knows me knows that I'm just personally not a big fan of desert levels in any game. It's a personal thing, I know, but these levels are just so bland for me, and Yoshi Desert for me is no exception. It feels like there's just not enough going on in this course. It feels like basically just a bunch of turns in a desert landscape with nothing that really ties it together. There's a few quicksand patches with piranha plants that eat you, which is cool, but honestly, they're actually very easy to avoid. There's an oasis to drive around with a sneaky shortcut around the side if you have a mushroom, but I just feel like it's not enough to make this level stand out for me personally. This track doesn't have anything to stand out, it just feels more like a generic desert level. Mario Kart's had some great desert stages before that I even like, but here, it's just a course that I'm not really eager to ever replay again. Next up is Bowser Castle 3. It's another track I'm very familiar with due to its appearance in Mario Kart Wii. In Super Circuit, it's set on the roof of the castle instead of being inside. It's a nice change in scenery compared to the other Bowser Castle where it's all set inside. We can actually get some fresh air after inhaling so many lava fumes like cooking a barbecue inside your house. I really like how this layout of this course really makes it feel like you're on top of the castle roof with all the straightaways and the rows of blocks that make a curved section of the course. It really makes it feel like you're driving on the roof. Despite all the straightaways, the track design itself is actually pretty complex. It's got some tight turns, heaps more thwumps to avoid, and some jumps with some grates over lava. It's a very fun course to drive on as there's so much at play here. I also love the atmosphere and how it's got this stormy vibe with all the castle arches surrounding the place. With its purple flooring, it really makes this track pop and surprisingly vibrant for a Bowser Castle track. If this track was in Melbourne, it would be bloody sunny in half an hour. Overall, it's a really fun Bowser Castle track with heaps of twists and turns and a lovely atmosphere. I really admire its uniqueness compared to the other Bowser Castles. Next up is Riverside Park's successor, Lakeside Park. As a kid, this picture really reminds me of Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs. This course on paper has a lot going for it. It's got a very nice aesthetic with a volcano in the background, and it's got more of a complex track design compared to Riverside Park. However, it has a bunch of flaws that drag down the track, unfortunately. Whoever designed this track decided to put jumps around the corners that cause you to go back further in the track, and with this game's clunky drifting mechanics, it's an absolute nightmare to navigate around. It can actually be very difficult not to go over these corners, which sucks because whenever you mess the drift up, it never feels like it's your fault. The game just isn't made to handle these types of corners, and it's just not fun navigating them. On top of that, there's heaps of places to fall off. The volcano spits out boulders all over the track, and it does it way too frequently, so when you're trying to navigate these really tight corners that you're already risking going backwards in the track, you also have to avoid these boulders raining all over the course, and it's just really not that fun. It's more frustrating, and it really sucks because this really has the foundations of something great. It's got a very nice aesthetic and music, and the layout could have been really good, but it just unfortunately falls flat due to all those issues. Next up is Broken Pit. It's another track everyone hates, and I'm gonna be honest, I don't think this one is that bad. It's not as good as Boo Lake. It does have a bit more of a boring and basic aesthetic, but its overall layout is not bad. The course is pretty wide, so it's easy to make turns, and there's some pretty cool shortcuts here too that aren't too difficult either. It's actually a decent time, and I personally think it doesn't deserve the hate it gets. Next up is the last of the Bowser Castle tracks, Bowser Castle 4. This one is set back inside the castle and in a room with a giant bomb inside this time. This is definitely the most complex of the 4 Bowser Castles. There's so many turns with Mecha Koopas to avoid, heaps of boosts and jumps. It's my favourite Bowser Castle in the game. It's got so much variety and I really enjoy its inclusion. I really hope this track comes back in a future game other than Tour one day because this would make for a great modernised remake. Last track in this game is Super Circuit's version of Rainbow Road, and as usual, Rainbow Roads are usually pretty good and this one is no exception. While it's nowhere near my favourite Rainbow Road, it's still a pretty good time. It's a very difficult track with loads of turns and jumps everywhere. It's a very satisfying course making these jumps and pulling off a bunch of shortcuts. It's got a very nice aesthetic too, very bright and colourful with shooting stars raining on the track, plus you have the Paper Mario reference in the background with Bowser's castle flying in the background, which is super cool. The only complaint I have is also the jumps. While I praised them earlier, it also has a lot of downsides. It's extremely easy to fail a turn and hit a jump where you fall down off the track, which is super annoying. It also doesn't help that this track isn't very wide for turning, so it has many of these jumps, which just makes it really annoying to navigate through. However, there are moments where the jumps are actually extremely useful. Pulling off an insane shortcut on one of these things can be extremely satisfying, and it gets even better when you have a mushroom, as even more opportunities for shortcuts open up. Personally, I think the pros of this course definitely outweigh the negatives, and it ultimately leads to a pretty fun time in my opinion. And those are all the courses, and for those interested, here is my ranking of every course. It's an overall very solid bunch of courses. Sure, there are some stinkers in here, but for the vast majority of them, they really made the most of the tech they were given and ended up making some great, unique, visually stunning courses. Now onto the much less familiar mode of this game. Battle Mode. Every Mario Kart game has a battle mode and mostly everyone has played it, but Mario Kart Super Circuit's battle mode was rarely played by anyone to the GBA's relevancy. You needed at least 2 GBAs, 2 copies of the game, and a link cable. That was far too much work to try and play the battle mode, especially when later Mario Kart games offered a far better, more easier to play experience. However, thanks to the Nintendo Switch Online re-release of the game, it's now far easier to just jump in and play a match of battle mode, which is how I was able to play it. The battle mode is pretty similar to how it was in Super Mario Kart, but this time it brings back the bomb cart from Mario Kart 64, which is awesome. I wish more Mario Kart games would include it. It gives eliminated players the opportunity to keep playing and knock out other opponents. It's a great idea. The overall battle mode itself is fine. Honestly, I'm not really wanting to play it more than 5 minutes, but for what it is, it's a totally passable battle mode for a handheld Mario Kart game. In essence, Mario Kart Super Circuit for me is still good. However, I do agree that the game is superannuated by most other Mario Kart games. The game was absolutely great for its time, but as more Mario Kart games came out over the years, it made the desire to replay Super Circuit so small for me and so many other people. But when I play a game that is very old, I don't tend to judge it by today's standards. I try my hardest to look at a game from the perspective of someone playing it back then. And in that context, I really think they knocked it out of the park with this one. It's not a perfect Mario Kart game, but it's a perfect first handheld Mario Kart game, and honestly, that's all I could ever ask for.